welcome back to my channel. So it's another one of these videos for warm, brown, Indian, Asian, olive, whatever you want to call it, kind of skin tone. I've done this type of video for high-end foundations, drugstore foundations, and also high-end concealers. So now it's only right that I show you my top 5 concealers from the drugstore for a warmer skin tone. And just as a side note, I'm focusing on brands and concealers that I feel have like a good shade range or have a concealer that works for a warmer skin tone. So this is very much like my other videos, and if you haven't seen them, I will link them down below for you so you can go and check them out. But this is just to give you a bit of an insight as to where to look to find your drugstore concealer. So let's jump straight on with it. The first one I'm going to mention is the LA Girl Pro Conceal High Definition Concealer. This is basically a dupe for the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, but for a fraction of the price. It's definitely a full coverage concealer, however, it doesn't feel too heavy or cakey at all. Now, the reason LA Girl are a really good brand to get your concealer from is because they have a huge shade range, absolutely massive. And because it's so affordable, you don't end up breaking the bank if you want to get a couple of shades. So I like to have a shade for covering blemishes on my skin, one to highlight under the eyes, and one darker one to contour. So the one that I mainly use is the shade Pure Beige, and I like to use this underneath my eyes and any other points that I want to highlight around my face. It covers up my dark circles, which is what I look for when I'm looking for a concealer. That's basically what I use a concealer for mostly. So if a concealer can cover up my dark circles, it goes into my good books and it ends up in a video like this. The next concealer I'm going to mention is the Revlon Colorstay Concealer. Now, I'm already a big fan of the Revlon Colorstay foundation, and you'd know that if you watch my drugstore foundation video, but the concealer is also equally as good. This is a medium coverage concealer and it's quite runny in consistency. However, I always set my concealer with powder, and once it's set, it doesn't budge. I have this in the shade 05 Medium Deep, and Revlon have got quite a good shade range. Now, in comparison to the LA Girl one I just showed you, this one is slightly warmer. It does do the job of covering up my dark circles, however, it's not exactly brightening. I feel like if I went a shade lower, it might get too ashy. So if I wanted to, I could mix the shade beneath this and this one together to get like a nice highlight shade. But if you just want to conceal and cover up your dark circles, this shade is going to work for you. That is, of course, if you are of my skin tone. If you're not, it's okay. They do have a good shade range, as I said, and I like the fact that this concealer's got the right amount of warmth in it, not being too orangey, not ashy whatsoever, and that's the main thing. The next concealer is from NYX, and this is the Gotcha Covered Waterproof Concealer. This concealer is full coverage, and hell yeah, it is full coverage. I have this in the shade 05 Medium Olive, and I found that this was the best shade for brightening and highlighting, and of course covering up those dark circles and just making me look fresh and alive. The shade of this concealer is slightly like a bit lighter than the other concealers. It's a bit more on the yellow side. However, it's not like sallow or odd looking. It's just nice and brightening. And the next two I'm going to mention are from the same brand, and they are Maybelline concealers. So this Eraser Eye Concealer is so popular amongst everyone, and that is because it is brilliant. It is a medium coverage concealer. However, it is totally buildable and it doesn't look cakey or sit cakey. It doesn't feel heavy whatsoever. It's just such a nice concealer to work with. The only downfall with this concealer is the fact that it only comes in 2 shades. I have this in the shade Nude. The other one is the shade Light, and I did try that one and it was way too light and way too ashy for me. I feel like on its own it doesn't quite cover the dark circles enough. If you can use the shade Nude, it is beautiful, especially layered on top of another concealer, which is how I mostly like to use it. And then finally, for the Fit Me Concealer, I believe they've either like widened their shade range, or they always had a good shade range in this and I completely missed it before. But I have this in the shade 20, and if you are someone of my skin tone, I think it's the shade 35, that would be great for around the skin, covering up blemishes, because it's such a good like accurate shade for like my skin tone. This is a medium coverage concealer, however I find it is quite buildable, and I really like to use it with my Eraser Eye Concealer. These two together, oh my god, such a beautiful combination. This concealer is probably the lightest and most brightest out of all of the ones that I've mentioned. The reason I like this concealer, although it is really light, it's not ashy whatsoever, and it doesn't come up grey. It's not got like an ashy undertone whatsoever. So with it being so light, it's still got the right amount of warmth in it for it to work on a warmer skin tone, which is why it does work. But guys, those are all of my top 5 drugstore concealers. As I said, make sure you go and check out my other videos like this, top 5 foundations for high-end drugstore, and even my high-end concealers. I will link them down below for you. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, if you learned something, and also don't forget to subscribe for 3 videos a week, guys, and the warm skin tone videos are every other Friday, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Mwah. Bye!